Welcome to another edition of Conversations, a program brought to you by the Methodist Church in the British Virgin Islands. We continue in our series as a part of our Methodist Heritage Month. And in this series, we are now looking at some of the teachings of the church, of Methodist theology, the things that make us Methodist, the things we believe in. My guest today is, again, we welcome Reverend Celina,
Yes.
Walton-Charles, to be a part of this conversation as we talk about some of the basic foundations of Methodism and what it is Methodist is built on.
Yeah.
How Methodism is built, which then shows how we exist. Reverend Celina, welcome.
All right. Thank you very much for being invited for conversations as we talk about the life of Methodism in our lived reality today. When we think about who we are, we first of all see ourselves as Christians.
Okay.
And we are Christians who are based on standing on the foundation of Scripture. And our Scripture, through our experience, gives us a semblance of the conversations that we keep as we rationalize God in today's world. So we are first of all Christians. We are called, first of all, children of God. We are called in rebirth. We are called to be born again, to have that nature that is promised to us to live in spirit and in truth. That's first and foremost who we are. Okay. That didn't stop there in our communities, in our central communities, but we find ourselves being children of God, being disciples of Christ, spread all throughout the Caribbean and the Americas. And, that kind of makes us one. Our connectionality, we spell connection with an X-I-O-N rather than a C-T-I-O-N. Mm-hmm. And so we have our uniqueness there. We are a people over 8 languages, but we share one common book, the Bible, that has been translated in various languages, but also we share in scriptural holiness, we share in song. So we will speak and sing the Lord's song in a strange land, okay. Right? And so we sing because out of our testimony, we can sing the old songs. Out of our testimony, we can make new music as we make a joyful noise unto the Lord. And so we are a connectivity in our local, and we are connectivity in the Caribbean and the Americas.
Now, you touched on the fact, Reverend Celina, that we are a connection.
Yes.
And we are Christians, yes. Mm-hmm. And then we are Methodists.
Yes.
Christians first and foremost.
Yes.
And then we are Methodists because we connect with other Methodists.
Yes.
And we believe very much in the same way. We say the same things, we sing the same hymns.
Yes.
But it's the connectional bit which I think becomes very interesting for us, because in the local church, I think we know that we operate on a circuit level. We know that we have 13 congregations across the BVI, and they all form part of what we see as the Methodist Church in the British Virgin Islands.
Yes.
And I know we can see that. We can understand that. And then we understand too that we are part of the Leeward Islands district.
Yes, we are.
And I think we can see that too, because as the Virgin Islands, we were always a part of the Leeward Islands.
Right, in the political arena.
In fact, from a historical perspective, at one point we were part of the Leeward Islands colony. So that we can see, that we can understand. But the connectional bit now, which brings us into the Methodist Church in the Caribbean and the Americas, we don't really talk much about that.
Okay, well, when we look at ourselves, we like to, when we travel from place to place, we gotta say that our connectionalism became we became a connection through the witness of Thomas Cook, you know.
Yeah.
We got to talk about Thomas Cook, and Thomas Cook went to various islands on a voyage for trade and for witness, as he would have carried some companions and along with that some slaves. But even in that witness, ordained ministers, we find ourselves in what we divide today as in 8 districts. So we have the South Caribbean district, which is the district that I was birthed in. Then we have the Jamaica district. We have the Haiti district. We have Panama, Costa Rica district. We have Belize, Honduras. We have the Leeward Island district. We have Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, and
Jamaica.
Right, and we have Jamaica,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
so, all in all, we have 8 districts, and you would realize that we say the Caribbean and Americas because we have Panama, Costa Rica, as well as we have Honduras, Belize, Honduras, and those are and Guyana district, right?
Okay.
So all of them are in the South America, Central America, in proximity, in continents. So when we look at ourselves, even though we speak different languages, we have the same structure. So we start underground, the people. And so the people find a need in community and they come together. They gather, they share in scripture, in true Bible studies. Some congregations would have started through Sunday schools. Some would have started through educational systems. Even just simple teaching, reading and writing. Some would have started as prayer houses. You know, so as a people, we gather together. And after a period of time, you became, the witness grow, and we are now called a congregation. The congregation then makes up, a circuit. And the various congregations make up a circuit. And circuits make up what we know as districts. And all 8 districts placed together is known as our connection. It's repetitive even in our structure because there are the members. We recognize that clergy, which we have 2 forms of ordained ministry. The diaconate and the presbytery, which I am a deacon. And so, and we have 2 presbyters in the circuit currently. And so we have that embedded. We recognize that clergy and laity are one. There is no hierarchy. So when we became autonomous, we recognize that those on the ground were equal to those who were ordained. Because we know that ministry is to spread scriptural holiness. We know that we are priesthood of all believers.
Priesthood. That was the point I was just thinking. The priesthood of all believers. And the church, the Methodist Church, lives that out.
We live that
the priesthood
out.
of all believers. So everybody is at the same level.
Everybody is at the same level.
And
but we are all called to be accountable to one another.
Yes.
And that's the whole fabric of the structure. And we also encourage that same family value in your households.
Now, interestingly, when I studied in Antigua, I did teacher training in Antigua, I remember we would go to worship at Ebenezer for 6 o'clock in the morning, an early service. Meant there was no bus at the time, so we had to walk into the town to get there. But I think it would have been Reverend Clark, who was one of the officers then up at the connectional office, one of the ministers. I think he might have been president at that point. But he would come down and he would conduct the worship service. And eventually we were invited up to Scotts Hill.
Scotts Hill, yes.
And for me, it was an experience that I'm thinking that maybe all Methodists around the region should have at that time when they visit Scotts Hill.
Yes, it is.
Because it's something that we don't know very much about. And there's this chapel
Yes.
A lovely chapel.
Yes.
And we were told when you went inside, the inside is paneled with wood all around. And it has 8 sides to it.
Yes.
And we were told that each side, the wood in each side is from a section of the district.
Yes.
So, there's wood from Jamaica, there's wood from the South American side. Each district had to provide the wood to panel the inside of it. And it provided this fascinating view of the center of Methodism in the Caribbean and the Americas.
And it also gives everyone a place of ownership. Because when you go in, you go there, it's like it's a museum. You can see artifacts of the whole building up. And, even when I was there after Hurricane Irma and Maria, which would have given them some beating, you were just able to get a sense of refreshment as you still see that that historical value still living today, even through various disasters that would have been experienced through Scottsdale and even in our own districts, that we can have memorabiliums in one central place. So we have our own place to call home in Scottsdale, in Antigua, and that is something that I believe that as Methodists we should really own and view one day. You should take that opportunity to go and live out your own heritage.
So we should have a pilgrimage to Scottsdale, where we see the center of Methodism in terms of the administrative center in the Caribbean and the Americas, because we don't pay attention to that. But then we bring it back down because we're still talking about Methodism and we're talking about our heritage and what it means for us here in the Virgin Islands. But then we recognize that whatever we do and say here is also reflected somewhere else as Methodists, because we sing the same hymns, we follow the same way. Recently I was looking at because especially since COVID, and now all churches are streamed live. So on any one day on a Sunday, you can pull up a Methodist service from any other area,
any island, any
and
district,
sing along with the same hymns.
Yes, you can.
Because it was the old Methodist hymn book, but now there is voices in praise. So, but you can still sing the same hymn. You can still hear the same familiar approach. Everything is still the same.
And so you have a sense as Caribbean people, a sense of ownership, that you don't feel different, because oftentimes when we have students who go abroad to study, or persons who go on work and travel, they often look for a place of familiarity. But when we go across the Caribbean and even in the Americas, we can look for a place that can resemble home. And that in itself actually is how that's how we actually, from the Leeward Islands, we actually have Holland, even though it is not in the Caribbean, but the diaspora of the Dutch natives finding themselves in Holland wanted a place to call home. And so we have 2 congregations in Holland today. In the South Caribbean, there is one in the US, in a state in the US, that is out of basically someone who would have gone away, passed and left that heritage for the South Caribbean. So when we think about the mission and the movement and our connectionality, it's not limited. And wherever we go, we can spread God's name. We can call all persons together.
But I think this is very fascinating, and it ties back, as we wrap up, it ties back into a conversation we had earlier where we talked about the movement of Methodism in Virgin Islands, and the persons who left this side of the Virgin Islands and went to the US side, and that eventually started
because the US Virgin Islands was a mission from the BVI,
So even after the full church was started, because remember now they were a Danish colony, but then even after Methodism went in, and a church was established in Charlotte, Mali, then you had that migration of persons in large numbers from this side of the Virgin Islands, and they were all out in the countryside and eventually built their own church.
Right.
And so we saw the same kind of connectional system going on, but it really gives us the feel that our heritage as Methodists is much deeper sometimes than we really want to think. And I want to thank you for joining today in this conversation as we touch a little bit on this whole issue of the connection, as you say, with an X of Methodism and what it means to be Methodist and what it is we believe and how we coexist. Yes, we are Christians first and foremost, but in terms of our practice, in terms of how we carry it out, then we are Methodists, and we connect with other people, other Methodists around the region as one organization.
Yes.
So I want to thank you, Reverend Celina, for joining in this conversation, and I want to thank our viewing audience for being with us again for this other edition, and I would invite you to join us for yet another edition of Conversations. Thank you.